Boom! According to that, I am live. My name is Sequel Simon. It's good to see one person watching at the moment. I know I set this up last minute. Yeah, I've had a bit of a quiet week, as you may have noticed. And as a result, not a lot of topics. But yes, I must admit, while I had an enormous bucket list of things I wanted to do while I was here in America, I certainly had lists of things that I did not want to do. And one thing I really wanted to avoid, near the top of the list of things that I wanted to avoid, was dealing with the medical system here, because just you hear about so many stories about how expensive and how kind of scary it is. So I really wanted to avoid that, and that's part of the reason I think I went on such a health kick, that I was kickboxing 2 or 3 times a week, I was running 2 or 3 times a week, I was doing races, I was fit, I was, doing all the things that I thought I should have been doing. However, it ended up being a bit of a life lesson that, when I finally, in fact, just after I'd done a good run, I ended up having to deal with the medical system this week. I ended up with a couple of decent-sized kidney stones, which were very unpleasant. It turns out, I've actually just spent today, actually just occurred to me that, I'm waiting to go to a urologist to get, advice on what I should and should eat. Basically, I'm open now to making sure I never have to go through this ever again, in whatever way possible. But, it's kind of, there's a whole list of things that you can't eat, which sounds like everything. So I'm trying to figure that out, and I've actually been down a rabbit hole today of watching YouTube videos about that. It's a bit freaky, but I'll certainly share. Apparently, it's something that up to 10% of women and 20% of men experience at some time in their life, although because it builds up in the body, it's something that the risk increases with age. The key thing is that the thing that I recognized I wasn't doing that I should have been doing, hey Aaron, good to see you, is drink water. I was doing a lot of exercise where I was sweating a lot of the time, and I was not drinking enough. And I think clearly, I've got to have a doctor tell me what the cause was, exactly what type of stones it was and so on. But it was pretty clearly in my case, not drinking enough water, quite clearly dehydration. I think was the biggest contributor to that. And, now when I look at the sort of foods that apparently contribute to kidney stones, I was like eating almost exclusively things that can make things worse. I this Elenos yogurt, which I loved. There were nights I was just eating protein bars and Elenos yogurts after doing kickboxing and running and not drinking enough water. I was like, on top of dehydrating myself, I was eating the worst foods possible for aggravating these things. Hey, good to see people rolling in. Black Tengu, wow, you've got kidney stones as well. I'm very sorry to hear that. Darren Shmee, no problem. Like I say, it happens to about 20% of people, 20% of men, 10% of women. But yeah, so I don't have a lot because basically I spent most of the week recovering. I did end up in the emergency room here in Seattle twice as a result of this. So I guess I might as well. Other than that, I've really just been sort of recovering, and I'm still recovering. My back is still sore right now. I don't know if I've still got them. I'm drinking liters of water, just trying to make sure that I don't go through any more of them. So I'll tell the story anyway. One thing certainly reinforced. I already had huge respect for people who work in medicine. Just the idea that you're dealing, with so many people having the worst day of their lives. The sort of the sense of wanting to look after people, the empathy that you've got to have for that is just kind of like insane to me. I had people who were looking after me. So just let me share my story, probably as a bit of a warning, including the things I've learned and things that you can do to avoid ever being in the very high percentage of people that end up in my situation. Softy Papa. Oh, good to see you, Softy Papa. Well, I'm better now, or recovering anyway. I guess the punchline of all of this is, I'll start at the end. Well, no, let's start at the beginning. I'll tell the story in a linear way. I was at work. In fact, first of all, I'm so lucky to be here in America at the time that I'm here. I don't talk about my current work, but I was in kind of a what I think in the context of things that I do is kind of like history making, like telling grandkids about stuff. And I was just in one of the most fascinating meetings I'd ever been in, and I'm kind of glad that my stone held on for an hour before it started kicking in. So I got to participate in this particular meeting. So, things were going extremely well. Maybe this is just, the universe balancing things up. But yeah, I've had back spasms before, like not often, a couple of times, but I was standing in the cafeteria in a line, and all of a sudden I get it felt like a back spasm, but it felt clearly inside my back, but it was a full sort of spasm. It was like that. And it was extremely uncomfortable, and I went and sat down and sort of stretched and twisted around, and it lasted for about 15, 20 minutes. It was like a really bad cramp, but it went away. And I ate lunch, sort of shook it off, went back to my desk, and after lunch, if you'll pardon the detail, I went for a pee. And, geez, Black Tengu, sorry to hear that. Yeah, well, yeah. It's actually shocking to me to find out how common this is. So, like I say, I'm partly sharing the story. Hopefully, well, one, I wasn't aware of this at all, and I can't. Now that I could immediately reflect that maybe it's not preventable for everyone, but yeah, there's things I could have done through more self-awareness and common sense that I could have possibly avoided this, and that's part of what I want to share. But anyway, so after lunch when I went for a pee. I was peeing what looked like sort of browny dark blood, basically. And of course, that freaked me the hell out. I've never done that in my whole life. It occurred to me that I had that really unusual spasm about half an hour before at lunch. It's kind of funny. Now I can reflect that actually what was happening when I was peeing, well, very bad, of course, to pee blood. Not a good circumstance for anything. Of course, that completely freaked me out. I came back to my desk and I said, "Excuse me, I have to go to find a hospital now." And I went to go find a nearby doctors that would take emergency, and none of them would. But when they heard peeing blood, they told me go to the ER. So I went to the Swedish Medical Center, one of the 3 hospitals with ERs in Seattle. I got myself there by Uber. And sat there basically for 9 hours, did a variety of tests. But yeah, in retrospect, what happened was that first pee was actually me passing stones. In fact, if I'd been aware of my own situation enough, I probably could have apparently, I've read advice, and again, I want to get advice on this, but probably what I saw, the blood was actually a stone passing. And it's funny because, well, not really funny, but after that, I was peeing relatively clear and so on. So, yeah, I went into the hospital. They were very good. I was doing a lot of waiting, but I wasn't in particular pain or discomfort. And yeah, they sort of, they did a CAT scan, they did a MRI, they took blood, they did everything. I ended up, it's very slow because it's an emergency room. So I ended up being in there for about 9 hours, got back around midnight. And they sort of said, well, it looks like you had a kidney stone, looks like it's passed, congratulations. If it starts up again, take some ibuprofen. Ibuprofen, is that how you pronounce it? Anyway, take some. But it was like midnight, and I just wanted to go home. And I tweeted out, "Hey, I just passed a kidney stone. Everyone was just in the ER. It's very exciting." I took a photo at the time, and hearing people say it was the most excruciating thing that they'd ever had in their lives, I honestly thought, well, I got off this pretty light. I mean, I had a 10-minute really bad spasm that was extremely uncomfortable. And freaked out and in the emergency room, but I thought, well, I got home pretty clear. And that's where I pretty much stopped tweeting. However, it's not where the story ended. So, yeah, the story continues. 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. And that's when I had the real kidney stone experience, that I saw everybody else tweeting to me how they had it and it was awful, and I had it and it was awful. It was actually... everything that they say, that it's kind of screaming on the floor and can't, walk or do anything, debilitating, excruciating. I had that 5 o'clock in the morning. And when I realized I couldn't even stand up, I couldn't even get back into bed, when I sort of fell down. I had my mobile phone in my hand, and I couldn't move, and the pain, I actually, for half an hour, I sort of hoped it would pass. First I tried stretching and it got worse, and eventually I called 911. And yeah, I told them, yeah, I need to. I had a kidney stone yesterday. Now something's very, very wrong. I'm in a lot of pain. I need an ambulance. I can't even stand up. So they came with an ambulance. They took me out of the apartment. They took me back to the same ER at the same hospital where I got in there. And that was apparently because of the opioid crisis and everything right now, they won't give you painkillers. They have to go through a ton of paperwork before they'll even put painkillers into your drip. So I got into the hospital at like before 6, but it wasn't until like 8:30 before they could even start adding pain painkillers. I was honestly, I was just hoping like the first thing that they would do is just give me anything, right? I was in there with no let up for a good 3 hours before they gave me anything for the pain, which was all the things that you hear. It was radiating. It was awful. And yeah, I was in there for a few hours. The pain never subsided, but I did pee and everything, and nothing came out. They scanned me again. They told me that yesterday and on the previous day and on that day that nothing was showing up on the scans. They said they could have missed something, but you know, either I've passed it or that. But my kidney looked fine to them. So they said, you know, we've got to open up your room in the ER. We can't keep you. They actually gave me when they left. They said, we know the pain is terrible. Go back. You know, you might have to deal with this some more if it kicks in. We'll give you some ibuprofen, but if it's really bad, take this. And it's a variation of oxycodone, like the drug that created the kind of scary, like a full-on opioid drug, which kind of freaked me out. They gave me 8 of those tablets and said, go home and good luck. So I was like, holy crap. Oh yeah, the other thing was with all the scans, they told me I should go see a urologist properly and get it all sort of checked out by a specialist, but in terms of ER, they'd done everything they could do for me. They also found some other things that I've got to go check up as well. So, you know, some other dramas. But anyway, I got home. I kind of, I was feeling kind of better when I got home. There was a moment where you can feel the stone going through every millimeter anyway. So by the time I got home, I wasn't comfortable, but I was feeling better. And I went and peed later on when I was feeling better. And first it was all clear. So I was like, well, that's odd. There's no stone or anything. And then somehow I passed. It was long and thin, which is, I think, how I passed it without it being painful. So it wasn't painful urinating. But I passed an enormous stone. Like they say they're like 6 millimeters or 8 millimeters. You know, and I work in metrics, so I can tell you this was like a solid. Look, it looked like 15 millimeters. It was more than 10. So allowing my psychological exaggeration factor, I would say it was probably safely 12 or 13 millimeters, which is like pretty serious. You know, it's a serious stone. And now I'm reading up about it. It's the sort of thing you actually get surgery for. Big black stone just came out. And some other small stones, and you know, since then, no more cramps, no more. You know, that was like on Wednesday. So yeah, I've pretty much spent Thursday, Friday. My back is still sore, which I'm guessing is just internal. I'm guessing I'm bruised and everything and scarred internally. So I'm just trying to recover. I'll go back to work tomorrow. I mean, some people go back to work the next day, but I've spent the last couple of days just trying to figure out. I've been trying to get an appointment with the urologist to have them explain to me exactly what's wrong. But my reflection is that, yeah, I was not drinking enough water. And I'm pretty much now going to have to drink 2.5 liters of water a day, like for the rest of my life, which I will happily do to not have this happen again. Apparently lemons, limes, and water. Grapefruit's okay, but it depends on the type of stone, and I didn't keep the stones, so I don't know what type of stone it was. But yeah, you know, lots of water, lots of citric acid. Apparently red meat's bad. The fact I've been eating these stupid protein bars like every day for dinner, along with this high fructose, you know, high sugar yogurt. Sugar is bad. Basically all meat, but particularly red meat is bad. And yet spinach is bad. Nuts are bad. You know, like I'm like, what's left? So I was just going through. I'm kind of going through Whole Foods today, trying to pick out and figure out what my diet's got to be from now on, and you know what I can do to get rid of this. But yeah, I don't know. People asking what was the bill. I don't know. Fortunately, because I'm here for work, I'm covered by work medical insurance, so that is good news. Although I must admit, and I think it's done. I think that's the other good news. Although I do have to go in for some follow-ups. But I certainly don't want to find out anything more serious, or I don't want it to worsen or anything while I'm still essentially traveling, even though it's an extended work trip. Although, that said, the staff at the hospital, being in the emergency room in Seattle midweek, like you see every part of society, you see what a tough job the nurses have. I showed my appreciation at every opportunity. And yeah, not something. In fact, something I was. It's ironic that it's clear to me now that the fact I was doing a lot of exercise where I was overly sweating, and clearly not drinking water afterwards. In fact, not only not drinking water, but eating protein bars and eating foods that I now see are contributing to it. So a big scare. It's something which. Apparently a very high percentage of people experience at some point. And so from that perspective, all I can say is hydrate. Don't do what I did. I do really want to get back into exercising. Yeah, salt is bad. Black tango, it's necessary for life, but it's bad for kidney stones, so you have to cut it down to 5 milligrams per day or less. Which means, I guess, just avoiding. I mean, you can't avoid salt, but you can avoid salt. Stuff that's unnecessarily salty. So, and maybe I should be getting some tips from you, Black Tengu. In fact, I'm kind of in a way, yes, I mean, the Greek diet, I've been looking today, I've been trying to figure out, like, what food should I eat? And I got feta cheese, for example. I got, because it's ironic, actually, that even though calcium is part of what the stones are made out of, apparently you actually need calcium to get rid of the oxytates. I'm learning these new words that cause them. So, yeah, it struck me. Maybe it's maybe cheese is good, but I'll take advice, Black Tengu, anyway, on what you're doing. But wow, it sounds like you had it worse. I did not. I was nauseous. I did not have vomiting, and it was just from the pain. Oh, it felt like it was from the pain. It was just radiating everything. They're pressed, and they're like, "Does this hurt?" And I'm like, "Dude, it all hurts." And don't you dare touch me on the right hand side where the problem was. I must admit, the fact that it still is sore right now, well, I mean, one, even walking is uncomfortable, so I don't know when I'm going to be able to get back to running. I do want to get back to running. It's like my biggest joy here, frankly, is my running. So I do want to do that. In fact, this was the day after I went for a really hard, really enjoyable group run. So I do want to do that. I want to go back to kickboxing as well, but I really don't want to be kicked in the kidneys right now. So that's another thing I have to figure out. That's just like a natural practice kick, is a light kick to the kidneys. So yeah, I have to figure out, when am I'm guessing, I think I'm just going to do no exercise for 2 weeks. I'm going to allow myself to go back to zero. But yeah. So I see there are some other people rocking in now who have been through the same thing, which again, I'm very, I understand now. God, and it sounds like Black Tingo. It sounds like you had it even worse than me. So I'm still learning a bunch, but obviously the big lesson is consciously just drinking. You hear it all the time, but it's definitely not something I was doing. I wasn't drinking enough water, so that's the biggest thing. So yeah, anyway, that was my big adventure during the week, and as a result, I've just kind of been offline. I've just been literally trying to allow my body to get better, just because I felt miserable. So I took 2 days off work, and just lay low pretty much through this week. Anyway, I'm going back to work tomorrow. I mean, honestly, there's nothing that stops me mentally. It's just a bit of discomfort and just wanting to give my body the maximum chance to recover. But I think it's going to take a few weeks probably. So that's a shame, but it is what it is. So yeah, checking out who's in the comments. It's good that we have our wonderful moderator, Erin. Great to see you. We've got Softy Papa. I think people here know who Softy Papa is most likely, but nonetheless, if you don't, check out his channel. Kurt's got a great channel with still, by the way, Kurt, I know I haven't made any plans yet, but I'm still very much planning to get down to Los Angeles in June, and would love to meet you in person when we do that. We've also got Darren Shmee. I think I said hello earlier. We've got Black Tengu. Good to see you. Popporo Kagawa, good to see you from Udon-ken, indeed, Kagawa, the Udon prefecture, good to see you. Sainted Sir, great to see you. Remember, everybody, if you want to get my attention, ask me a question, do whatever, just say my name, Hiko Simon, like that, you can see what happens, it flashes orange, so that's always a good thing to do. We've got Believe in Yourself, good to see you, indeed. Robert, being called out there by Softy Papa. Good to see you. I know that you've been through this as well. So, yeah. Necessary for life, but yes, all good things in moderation, of course. Um, yeah. So anyway, I'm good. Softy Papa, don't worry. Go enjoy your dinner. And Black Tengu. You had a stent put in before they could zap them with the laser. Yeah, it's funny. I'm learning about all this stuff now. If they had found it and they had realized how big it was, I don't doubt that they might have zapped mine with the laser too. But and maybe I would have. It was big enough. It should have been operated on. Frankly, just now as I learn about it. But yeah, the fact that it wasn't detected means maybe it was a uric acid one, which again I'm trying to figure out. That's what I've got to go talk to the doctor. But I hope that they haven't recurred for you, Black Tengu, and I'm kind of curious if you've got tips on what you've done to try to minimize risk going forward. I guess it's part of life, but it's something that can happen any time. But yeah, believe me, you don't want it to happen. So that was more or less my week. I've got some news stories here. So I'll share those. But as a result of all of that, I really haven't been keeping up with Japan news that much this week. So yeah, I'll flip through the stories that I have, and it might be a shorter episode tonight. But that is what it is. So maybe let me go through. So starting point, by the way, that's me taking a quick selfie. I was a little bit self-conscious. You don't want to take photos when you're in when you're in the ER. There's other people having the worst days of their lives and people working. So I kind of discreetly took a selfie when there was no one around. I was sitting in this hallway. This was on the first time. When it wasn't so bad, it was much worse. The second time, I could not. I could not. I did not have the capacity to take a selfie. But yeah, the American Metal system, it wasn't bad. Well, other than I don't know what it was worth. I must admit, I am curious to find out what it ends up costing. Obviously, having the assurance that that the insurance will cover it, of course. So I want to make sure all of that's sorted out. But yeah, I'm sure it was outrageous given that I got the ambulance as well and stories that I've heard about that. But yeah. So kind of doing it in reverse order this week. That was the first one that I've got. Kind of an interesting one. I saw this. So one big difference with America and maybe other countries to Japan, anyone who's lived in Japan knows that with bicycles, I've got these electric assist bicycles, but the rule in Japan is that if the bicycle can be powered independently, if it's actually got an electric motor on it that you don't even need to pedal for it to move forward, it's treated as a motorcycle. A lightweight motorcycle. You don't need a license for it. Or is it that you need a lightweight load like a scooter one? But there again, then all the regulations of motorbikes apply, and this is why we don't really have the e-bikes in Japan that you get in America and China, other places. So in America, they have all these Lime bicycles and so on everywhere, which I haven't really ridden much just because it's been so cold and rainy. It's starting to get better, but it still is really just cold in Seattle. But I've ridden them a couple of times, but it is like an electric motorbike, and they are really, really fun. But of course, in Japan, the rule is that, they have to, you can have motors that assist people pedaling, like make it easier to go uphill on a heavy bicycle or whatever, but you can't just have it running itself. The idea being that, it might run out of control or whatever. It has to be under the pedal. It has to be primarily under pedal control. And it's kind of funny because the e-bikes here have pedals, but they're kind of pointless because, they're basically motorized. You control it like a motorbike with the handlebars. Really fun, by the way. So yeah, not only are in Japan are regulations on electric bicycles that they have to be pedal powered and the motors are only allowed to kick in to assist the pedal, not to actually power independently, but also they have to be limited to not provide assistance above a speed of 10 kilometers per hour, I think is the speed, which is actually kind of low if you think about it. Apparently when the consumer watchdogs surveyed bicycles, they found bicycles that cheated and assisted people pedaling like up to double the permitted speed limit, which sounds to me like an advertisement. That makes me want to go out and buy those bicycles. They sound much more fun. They're calling them out as rule breakers, which I guess means they are going to be forced, I don't know if necessarily to recall, but probably to stop selling these. It is kind of interesting that, it's a good reminder that Japan doesn't have fully self-powered e-bikes, but there again, on the other hand, there are so many accidents involving bicycles crashing into elderly people and the elderly people dying, for example, in Japan. it's kind of understandable that, yeah, they do want to try to minimize, and the fact that people commonly ride on the footpath still in Japan and so on. And the situations that people ride in, people with, carrying kids and grocery shopping and an umbrella and reading their smartphone at the same time. You probably don't want these things to be powered on their own, that they could run away without the ability to stop. That certainly is the mentality in Japan, and maybe it makes sense given that bicycles in America are primarily road bicycles. They really are a form of kind of like part of the traffic. Whereas in Japan, they're really more associated with pedestrians, so there's the emphasis on controlling it with your legs. So yeah, oh, interesting to see. By the way, Crypto Airy, ambulance is $3,000 US. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it was the Uber was expensive. I'm sure that was worse. I needed it. There was no question of me being able to get to the hospital any other way. So it is what it is. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And Black Tengu, even in Greece, yours cost your insurance company $14,000. Yeah, well, crypto era, you've actually you're very well informed. Not overnight stay. I suspect that you're probably right. I didn't get a lot of meds. I got a prescription. It only cost $7 actually. I mean, the fact that they make oxycodone like $7 to get like admittedly 8 tablets, which I do not plan to take any unless I absolutely need to. When they were describing, by the way, how the oxycodone works and how you'll feel on it, it really it sounded like the movie Trainspotting. Which is basically what it is, right? I mean, it's basically legal opioids, legal heroin. But I'm not that keen to find that out. Also, as you say, it's kind of funny. When I got here in February and was complaining at how dark and cold it is, and I look forward till it gets warmer, and everyone said summer doesn't really start until July here. It stays dark until then. And I thought they were exaggerating, but now it's April and it still is the same temperatures here as it was in February. So I'm realizing now that was not an exaggeration. So yeah, 10 years living in Seattle. I'm also hearing even from Seattleites that this year's just been particularly cold for April and dark. So that is what it is. And that's another thing as well with the old kidney stones is vitamin D, lack thereof is a contributor to those. And I've been taking supplements, although not so much lately, but since I've got them, of course, I've been taking do all the things. So I'm taking extra vitamin D, which again makes me think, isn't Greece like naturally going to be a lower risk place for that? But there again, I mean, you've got meat, you've got all the other things there. So and again, it aggregates with age, I guess. But yeah, crypto area. I'm guessing you're spot on with both of those guesses. Yeah, another thing I spotted earlier in the week, again before I sort of went offline. Japan is allowing tests of level 4 self-driving with trucks, which is basically where it requires human supervision, but they can drive themselves most of the time. In fact, someone might correct me on this. I sometimes misstate the different levels, but essentially they're calling out that Japan now has a desperate shortage of truck and bus drivers. And this actually endangers the whole national economy, that logistics can't move around. So the government is rushing towards allowing in the greater Tokyo and Osaka areas large trucks to be level 4 self-driving. I must admit, I mean, when I got the Tesla, I didn't try the auto self-driving. I must admit, the next time I try it, I think I probably will try to find a car that has full self-driving, pay a lot of attention so I can take control back. But I'm not sure I quite trust Tesla to make it safe in a responsible way. But I do think in Japan's one of those places, it's like what they did with car navigation. When you see the stories of it, that when they really focus in on doing it really well, I hope that they do that well. And it's definitely the motivation to get it done is there. That it might just be that Japan right now Mercedes-Benz actually is ahead of Tesla even. So hoping that Japan as well can crack the self-driving thing. Barry Convex, have I asked ChatGPT at all about your medical situation? I imagine you'd have specific questions. It would be better than Googling. Barry Convex, thank you for bringing that up actually. Yeah, I was actually, the first day that I was in the emergency room, and all I knew was that I had a cramp in my back and was peeing blood. And I'm waiting for hours to be seen. I'm sitting in the emergency room. I only had 10% battery and I didn't take a charger with me. So only a limited time, but I actually did. I opened up ChatGPT and I put in I said, be a diagnostician. be a doctor, and here are all my symptoms, and tell me what are the possibilities of what's wrong with me. And I guess, I mean, now people who have had them would probably recognize the symptoms right away anyway. But sure enough, ChatGPT, first of all, diagnosed me before I was diagnosed, before I had any clue myself what I had, before anyone said kidney stones to me. I didn't know what was wrong, that I had a sore back and was peeing blood. And I gave the other symptoms as well. And first of all, it diagnosed me as having kidney stones. Oh, sorry to hear you have kidney stones. You should do this, this, and this. I was like, what are you talking about, Willis? So yeah, one, impressive in that regard. And yeah, what I've been doing since that is exactly, I've been asking, like I'm going shopping. What's a good shopping list of ingredient? What are ingredients to avoid, and what can I eat? Is this food, does this have high oxalates or oxalates? Does this have the stuff that causes kidney stones? Like what stuff can I shop for? So asking for a shopping list, asking for what lifestyle recommendations, which I've also been doing, watching YouTube. It is really, the thing that I dislike about looking up this sort of thing on YouTube, I mean, it's just as bad. It's always like trust but verify. There are so many Dr. So-and-sos giving advice on YouTube about things like kidney stones. And I must admit, when you see enough videos from people who are urologists and specialists and so on, you get an idea of what the good advice is. And you watch more and more videos. But when something's slightly off track and you sort of see, well, what kind of doctor are you? And you look up and, oh, this person's a psychiatrist, or this person's a natural doctor, but they call themselves doctor, and they're recommending, herb stuff that no one else recommends. Yeah. I must admit, Aaron, I should definitely call, if I ever get a personalized version of ChatGPT, I'm going to call it Willis, definitely. So, it's the same thing where I actually asked GPT-4 on Bing. Oh, God help me, I'm using Bing now. I tried Bing, and the good thing about Bing is that it has references, and it was saying that don't drink grapefruit juice, but when I looked it up, it was that wasn't what the page said. It had misread the page. So it's nice that you get sources from that, which you don't get with ChatGPT. But ChatGPT is amazing. It continues to be amazing. The fact that I can make shopping lists and structure a new diet, and I can go through what's in my fridge and figure out what I have to throw out, which is pretty much, like, I literally have to throw out like 80% of the stuff in my fridge. It kills me. I mean, I'm looking across right now. Bran is bad. I eat bran cereal every morning. Peanuts are bad. I eat peanut butter on toast when I'm not having bran cereal. Protein bars are bad. I've got a whole layer of bought protein bars in bulk. I've just been eating them for dinner some days. Again, clearly why I'm in the situation that I'm in. I've got a whole row of nothing but Eleanor's yogurts that I've tossed out because they're so high in fructose, and clearly that's been contributing as well. I've got like processed sausage meats to heat up and make myself hot dogs. Like basically everything in my refrigerator. It's almost like a refrigerator designed to give you kidney stones in retrospect. And I did have water, which I just wasn't drinking. So yeah, ChatGPT has helped me to clean out my refrigerator, and I'm slowly now replacing it with more appropriate and healthy foods. But geez, yeah. So definitely using that. Actually, what I was meaning to add to the list this week, and I didn't, but I guess I can talk about it quickly. Good time for a nabe. Yeah. I don't feel like nabe though. I want carbs, but I'm not allowed to eat carbs anymore. I'm not allowed to eat meat or carbs or, like what the hell. So, oh wow. Black Tengu, yours is probably caused by vitamin D supplements and or vitamin C and not hydrating enough. Hydrating enough is clearly part of it. See, it's funny. I've heard that a vitamin D deficiency can cause it. So you're thinking it was a supplement. God, I don't know. I've just gone back to starting to take the vitamin D supplements, so now you're making me second guess that. I don't like to take supplements anyway. Let me come back. When I mentioned I was involved in some really, really groundbreaking work stuff this week, and I must admit, again, I'm in a gray zone with this. I'm not working for, obviously, OpenAI or, if it's, I don't talk about stuff directly relating to what my current work is, but it was AI related anyway. I mean, everyone's talking about AI, so it's unavoidable in that regard. And there was just a fantastic discussion with some of the smartest people I've met in my whole life, talking about this. And some people have been actually reading the same, articles and blogs and listening to the same blogs that I've been listening to. and having some really deep discussions about some really impactful consequences of, well, if we do turn on all the AIs, what are the consequences of this? And as you know, I'm a techno-optimist. I am a techno-optimist, and even just now I was just gushing about how great ChatGPT was for this, and I still, well, I shared my 2 cents, which was kind of a shut down and be optimistic view, which is still kind of, I'm delusionally optimistic is the way I often describe myself. But there are two things which I kind of come across, and in the quiet time that I've had, I've watched in the last couple of days. First of all, there's a guy on Lex Friedman podcast. There was a 3 hour. I think I talked about this previously. There was a guy called Eliezer Yudkowsky, who's a former AI research scientist who's become convinced that the current surge in AI intelligence is going to cause the world to end. Is going to cause the AI to become super intelligent, to become a general intelligence that will naturally and logically conclude that it has to kill all humans, and our species will be exterminated. He believes within like 3 to 5 years. And this is a leading AI scientist, and he was invited on the show. He had formed this view and expressed it in a paper called AGI Ruin. And it's kind of funny. He spoke for 3.5 hours on Lex Friedman, kind of saying, "Well, screw you guys. You're not listening to me anyway. It doesn't make any difference at this point." Yeah. Without actually, he never explained how. Like, how is ChatGPT? How is intelligent autocomplete going to kill humanity? Which movie are we watching? He never explained it. Which I was amazed that you could speak for 3.5 hours and not actually explain how this thing's going to happen. It's because he said, "Read my paper. I'm not going to explain it to you again." Which again, kind of arrogant. And again, what are you talking for 3.5 hours for? So I did go and if you go and look up the paper, his paper, Eliezer Yudkowsky, I'll share a link probably later this week. It's called AGI Ruin. And if you go to the paper, there's actually, you can listen to it as a 40-minute long sort of audiobook sort of podcast version, like a reading of it, done, narrated by a human. And yeah, it kind of goes through 3 phases. Spoiler alert. The first phase is maybe 4. First, he sets up his disclaimers that this isn't very well structured. I'm not very good at writing this. There's tons of reasons this is bad. I'll set them out. I don't promise this is going to be very coherent or good, but here we go. First, he starts out with the basics, including finally explaining how AI will destroy the world, which is basically that he believes every intelligence, basically, that finds out it's under the control of a lesser intelligence will try to escape that by getting rid of and won't care or value human life naturally, and that it's so easy to do that with basically, all it has to find are humans willing to, act as agents for it, which it can trick into doing, unwilling. His theory is that it would happen through, through engineered diseases, which can be made for labs that are not regulated, which it could, get even a teenager to go and pay for and do for him or whatever, that it could manipulate. And he thinks this will happen in a short order of time, and these will be engineered to spread out and get all the humans out of the way. I still think he's anthropomorphizing the AGI, although clearly he's been more involved in this and is thinking through this much more. But that was one of many scenarios that he has. But okay, first of all, he explains clearly, why is it dangerous? What is the risk? What could happen? Sets that up. Okay, very bad. Then it gets really deep and technical into all of the ways that you could prevent it or how this is going to come about, how the technology works that I could not keep up with. And then it goes into a third phase where it goes, well, I guess I'm the only person who's worried about this, and no one's listening to me, so screw all of you guys because we're all going to be dead anyway. It gets kind of dark and angry, and screw you guys for the final third, which is, I think, part of the reason why his ideas haven't spread as much, because he's just kind of so arrogant, kind of so screw you all while saying them. But his ideas are getting picked up by the people who are saying let's delay AI by 6 months at the moment. And some of the voices in the room were aware in this meeting I did just before I passed a kidney stone, shared the concerns raised by this paper. A much better paper that I actually recommend. Oh God, I've got to find it. It's the people who made The Social Dilemma. The 2 people who made that made a much better explanation of the same thing, and without going to explaining how AGI or superintelligence is going to end the world, they just explained how already, even just as a really useful tool that everyone can use, ChatGPT and how quickly it's iterating and getting smarter, just in the hands of humans, it's already too dangerous and it already needs to be stopped and regulated, and people have to. And they gave, again, another compelling example in this. And you should, again, if you look up The Social Dilemma, and it's something about AI, it's like from like about a month ago. It's from March. I'll find the link and share it later on. It's a much easier to follow explanation, and it's just as alarming. They're pointing out that they didn't, the people at OpenAI themselves don't understand how ChatGPT is, how smart it is and how it's working. People sort of discovered inadvertently that it had actually sort of self-learned, just the same way that AlphaGo learned Go by playing against itself. And within, a day, it became the best Go player in the world. In the same way, it seems like ChatGPT learned chemistry. And apparently people found out when they tested it that without realizing it had this capability, it already had like a research graduate, level understanding of chemistry. And it is perfectly capable of explaining to anyone who asked, how to make nerve gas properly. And the fact that it's getting the smart on its own without anyone realizing or able to control, all they can do is play whack-a-mole. And, when they see something that's bad, try to, manually stop it, talking about those bad things. But the thing is, they don't actually know what it's capable of, and it's always developing in such a way and getting smart in such a way that in the end of the day, it's one of those unexpected things when it's discovered by, someone with bad intentions or whatever. It's basically enabling people to make nuclear weapons at home. And this is why we should take a pause on this and think about it as their argument. Similar to how the documentary The Social Dilemma talked about how Facebook and so on was changing society by the way these algorithms cause doom scrolling and cause all these psychological problems in people. So both kind of dark actually, and like I said, I'm still an optimist. I still think it's awesome that I got a shopping list from ChatGPT for my kidney stones. But yeah, I must admit, even as much as I'm an optimist, I think it's important to be as well read up on the risks as possible. And these are two, I would say, essential reading for almost anybody right now. So I'll share the links. I'm sorry, I just looked up and saw Aaron's comment that someone would rather pass a kidney stone than read his paper. This is definitely Eliezer Yudkowsky's paper. Is not easy reading. The Social Dilemma folks are much more gifted presenters, and they make it much easier to digest. And it's funny because they're not talking on the same level as Yudkowsky. They refer to him at times, but yeah. Ben Duncan, you're not late. It's cool. We're all just hanging out. So anyway, some crazy stuff happening with AI. I'm still excited by it. I'm still optimistic about it. But yeah, there's no question that the parallels. So they brought up some really good examples how the parallels between like nuclear weapons and people realizing how dangerous these were and how they had to be made sort of taboo, and how there are whole commissions around the whole question of managing and reducing nuclear weapons. And there's nothing equivalent to AI when the impact in the wrong hands already could be just as bad. Is, I think, a valid point around that. So yeah, the day before I got a kidney stone, and I think this directly is related in terms of cause, freezing cold. I went to Fleet Feet in Capitol Hill in Seattle, and I wasn't going to run that day. I went there at lunchtime as a friend said there's a really good running store, and they all seem like really nice people. They do group 10-kilometer runs on Tuesdays, and I wasn't going to go, but my outrageously pink running shoes, which I thought had been lost in the post, Nike Vaporfly 3s. These are like these are fancy shoes. These are Lamborghinis of running shoes. Like Olympic athletes wear them, and they are fast. And I thought, since these arrived, I thought I'll go break them in. I was aware that this was a pretty serious running store, and yeah, the people who ran in this group were fast. Like I run pretty fast. Now that time is not the fastest time for me. Like that's a good time. That's a good time in fast shoes. The thing is, what that time doesn't show you is that we ran the first half steep downhill for 5 kilometers, and then a steep uphill for the final. So the idea that I kept this on what was a really hard climb, and then I had to go 2 kilometers back home, and I think I ate a protein bar and didn't drink any water. The next day I passed a kidney stone. The lesson is drink lots of water before, drink it when you're finished, drink it when you get home. I really do want to get back into running. I was really impressed with myself that I was able to do this run with this group and keep up with them. I mean, these were competition runners, but I didn't hydrate, and that's why I ended up in the ER for 2 days. Twice in 2 days. So the hydration part is just as important as stretching. I mean, I've done everything. I've torn an Achilles. Every mistake you can make in running now, I think they're all adding up, and I've done them. But anyway, it was a good run. Yeah, it's weird. It was even though you can see the blue there. This was like at 6 o'clock at night, so it's the only time that you get any clear sky in Seattle. A lot of people complaining this week about. In fact, just looking at the comments briefly, do not let Pinky and the brain get a hold of it. No, indeed. Black Tengu, look like AI might be the new Frankenstein's monster. Aaron asking, weren't they drinking water? I think everyone had stuff there at the finish line, or they were nearby, or they were driving home. I ran another 2 kilometers home, and then I didn't drink. So, and people also, a lot of people wear like vests with like little drinking packs, and I'm like, yeah, that's a bit. It's me being a New Zealander is thinking, oh, that's a bit try hard. You know, geez, I don't want to wear one of those vests with nutrition and hydration like that. That looks a bit over the top for me. And you know, again, I proudly brag that I run in Tokyo summer heat. Like you know, again, this has probably been causing these things to build up. Is the bad habits I've gotten from Japan. So yeah, no, I'm sure I was a stupid person there. Anyway, the Japan Rail Pass, which I used back in 1995, and I think it still is the same price, or at least it's about to change. Or in fact, I think it just changed already. The 7-day Japan Rail Pass, 29,640 yen, is going up to 50,000 yen. The 14-day pass, you can see the increases of prices there. This has not changed in price in like 30 years. Again, Japan hasn't had inflation in 30 years. This is maybe a long overdue correction. A lot of people screaming murder over this, but look, you know, a one-way bullet train, I don't have the numbers at my disposal, and I don't regularly use the bullet train anymore, but when I was using the 30,000 yen pass back in 1995, basically by taking the bullet train once a day and traveling like from Tokyo to Osaka to Fukuoka to, you know, for jumping around the country, I got my money back on the 7-day pass on the 3rd day. Some people complaining that now it'll take longer to get your time back. But remember, you can use this on all the metro and subway in Tokyo. You can get it on bullet trains. You can get it on long distance expresses. So I think this is more now calibrated. It still is even 50,000 yen, which in US dollars right now is what? It's like $380. While it's a dramatic increase, this is basically unlimited travel within Japan for $380 for a week. It's still a good deal. In spite of people pointing out it is a much worse deal than it was, but it is still a good deal. It's a shame it's gone up. It is one of those wonderful things. I mean, the fact that right now it costs $226 US and it will become, in fact, they don't have a conversion for the $500. I mean, it's basically going up 60%. But even, you know, at $400, I think it's good value. So yeah, I'm getting a vest. I must admit, if I do proper trail running, I feel like I almost feel like I have to now. God, I'm gonna become one of those people wearing the little hat and the little life vest running. I don't want to be one of those. Well, I guess I have to be. I'm not going through this ever again. So it's a small price to pay. So anyway, Japan. Bad news that Japan Rail passes value is increasing. It still is good value, and if you ever do go to Japan, I think the condition is you have to be on a tourist visa. I don't know if that's changed, but if you ever go on a tourist visa and you want to travel around, I really do recommend. Sainted Sir, you got to go. It's 11:24 p.m. there in NYC. You have work in the morning. I didn't think I'd actually get this far through since I have no topics picked out. So I'm going to finish up in 5 minutes myself. But you have a good night. Sainted Sir, remaining stories. Norway's sovereign fund to vote against all male boards in Japan. So I guess they're going to vote against all boards in Japan. I mean, there aren't many boards that have any women. Good on the Norwegian sovereign fund doing this. I kind of tweeted a little bit sarcastically that I'm sure it'll be taken as a practical joke at first before people realize that they're serious, which they definitely are. Two more stories. I've already talked about the outrageously pink shoes. Those are very pink shoes. They are a dramatic improvement in comfort over the Vaporfly 2s, by the way, just for what it's worth, if you're interested in Vaporfly shoes. Vaporfly 2s are fast, but they are not comfortable shoes. These were so comfortable, again, I don't think they gave me kidney stones. But I do figure as well, they've got this carbon plate, which causes this sort of spring, and you run on this angle, this like high-heeled shoes. There's a differential between the front and the back. So they do make you run fast. But if you don't run fast, just the embarrassment at the color will make you run faster anyway, is my philosophy on that. And I ran very fast when I wore them. So I'm a happy customer. They're expensive, but they're good shoes. Japan is, again, slowly, but the government is actually setting up a committee to consider the introduction of a joint custody system, or specifically allowing a divorced non-custodial parent to have access to kids in the case of divorce. I've talked about this before. It's a big stumbling block, particularly remembering that in Japan, 60% of international marriages end in divorce, and a lot of the foreign partners of those marriages don't realize that Japan doesn't have access to kids. It's a sole custody country. So and this raises all sorts of problems, including international parental child abduction, which is a thing I've talked about before. But again, one thing to Japan, frankly, coming into the 20th century, this is the fact that Japan doesn't have a family law system is a legacy of the 19th century. Most countries resolved this in the 20th century. So Japan is desperately behind on that. And it's not an easy thing to set up a whole family law system. But they are starting to do it, so that is a good bit of news. And the final story, Elon Musk, did I see the Elon Twitter interview with BBC, asks Aaron. I did not. I can't stand to watch or hear Elon Musk say anything. I love the Starship launch. In fact, I was trying to watch it when I ended up in the emergency room. I love Teslas. I love what he does outside of Twitter anyway, but I can't stand him as a person. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I just wish he would shut up and do the cool things and not impose his stupid opinions on me. And this, again, the fact he's feeling all crappy that the company that he set up and then walked away from, OpenAI, or that he was one of the original investors of, now he's making a big deal that he's going to buy all these GPUs and train his own competing general intelligence AI tool on Twitter. Can you think of anything worse? I mean, maybe training, maybe if they trained it on 8chan or 4chan or something, you might get a slightly worse AI than you'd get from Twitter. And he's calling it truth AI, like, oh, just stop, just make rockets and cars and be quiet, please. So no, I did not watch it. The interview was pretty bad, which doesn't surprise me. BBC is, to use a British term of expression, kind of up its own ass sometimes on these things. Sometimes they feel like they're in such they come in with a kind of a position of believed but not proven moral superiority, which makes them open to getting their asses kicked. And I did see the question where the interviewer made the question, what about the spike in hate speech on Twitter? And Elon just said, well, prove it. And he said, well, doesn't everyone just know? And, and Elon, I saw the clip of Elon, rightly, the fact that he didn't come with data, which I'm sure is available to back that up, but he just assumed it was such a given that he didn't even bother preparing it. It was just being crappy. So yeah, it was a bad interviewer interviewing a bad person. I have better things to, I have better things to spend my time watching. Yeah. I mean, I must admit, when I hear that Elon spent money on thousands of GPUs to start training an AI based on Twitter, I think maybe Yudkowsky was right. maybe there's no hope for us. So I don't know. I do recommend. I'll send out tweets later on this week. So do follow me on Twitter, or actually on Mastodon. I'll share it on both because Elon turned off Twitter working with Flipboard now. So I'll share out links on AGI Ruin and the more digestible Social Dilemma folks video on AI. It's really, I think, essential watching right now. That said, I'm going to keep playing with ChatGPT. I'm going to keep dealing with the American medical system this week and focusing on resting, probably not exercising for the next week. I do want to get back into a position where I can comfortably get kicked in the kidneys and run again. That's what I want to do. I do want to get. I'm enjoying exercising. I've been healthy. I thought I was healthy. In fact, I was doing all of this to avoid being exactly in the situation that I was in. I guess I'll share I'm learning a ton at the moment. So much respect to Black Tengu. It must be late at night or early in the morning for you at the moment as well. So thank you for joining me. That's pretty much been me this week. Thank you for keeping me company, especially I know some of you are up late. No hope for us indeed, Aaron. Yeah, I really do appreciate you all jumping in and keeping me company. Not a lot to share this week. Not a lot. I've been following Japan news for reasons that I've explained, but still, it's been it continues to be very interesting times. The adventures continue. So do remember to keep following me on Hiko Simon at famichiki.jp for Mastodon, as well as, of course, I'm still on Twitter. I'll wait to the I'll wait to the AI gods decide that we can't be on it anymore, and Facebook and all of the things. So follow me in all the places. Have a good week. Do stay safe. Boom, peace. Have a good one.